Shalom, family. It's good to see everyone here. I tell you what, this has been a crazy day. All right. So, we're going to talk about George Floyd. George Floyd's family is really upset that, the police reform bill that they had with his name on it has not been pushed. And it has not been pushed because they don't want any protections in place for us. It's just pretty obviously clear. They don't want protections for us. They believe protections are for anyone except for us. We should be out here as sitting ducks, being killed and abused and mistreated all day long. They don't care. And it just goes back to what I was saying. All of politics in the US is rooted in racism. And the fact that the bill has never come back up again, it is pretty obvious it's all about race. And you can tell the Democrats are totally unconcerned about this bill because they don't even speak of it anymore. And neither does Joe Biden. Nobody speaks about this bill, you know? And his family, I think they may not be up to par on what politics are like in this country. I'm just saying, for them to even be raising this the way that they are, I think the bill should have passed, but it didn't. So Floyd's family calls on Congress to pass police reform 4 years after his murder. So the family of George Floyd marked the 4th year anniversary of his death by renewing calls for Congress to pass legislation to reform policing in America that is named in his honor. Change is needed, Felonious Floyd, George Floyd's brother, said in a news conference Thursday, where Democratic lawmakers announced their latest effort to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. I don't trust them. This is an election year. This is what they did back in 2020. They promised they were going to get this bill passed, and all they did was shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well, we tried, and nothing was ever passed. So now Democrats are coming back. Oh, we're going to be able to get this passed. And they're not going to get nothing passed. They're just saying this to get reelected, especially for Joe Biden. They don't care about us at all. So the legislation passed in a then democratically controlled House in June of 2020, but it stalled in the Senate. Now, remember, you only have one black senator, Tim Scott, and he always sides with them folks. All right. And the rest of the senators are white. All right. So now you understand why it stalled in the racist Senate. So, anyway, Democratic Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee reintroduced a bill on Thursday, days before the fourth anniversary of Floyd's murder. Calls for lawmakers to be held accountable for misconduct in court and police training and policy reforms. We have the opportunity to enact bold, comprehensive reform to policing practices to correct and prevent unnecessary deaths. Congress must pass the Floyd Justice in Policing Act of 2024. This is what she wrote on Facebook. But you know what, y'all? This is only coming up because it's an election year. Don't fall for this. They don't want, if they really wanted to pass this bill, they had the last 4 years to do it. If they really wanted this bill to go somewhere, they had all this time to lobby this bill to get it passed. And they have not done it. They haven't done it. So in their minds, the police are looking at you as a target because you're somebody of color, he said. At the end of the day, if they can make federal laws to protect the bird, which is the bald eagle, then they can make federal laws to protect people of color. Yeah, but they don't, these people would choose animals over us, y'all. Do you realize that? I mean, his brother must not realize it because this is what he just said. These folks would choose animals over us. Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, was killed on May 25th, 2020, while in police custody. Derek Chauvin, the white police officer, was filmed kneeling on his neck, and that was for nearly 9 minutes as Floyd pled for help and said he couldn't breathe. The following year, Chauvin was convicted of murder and manslaughter in the state trial and sentenced to more than 22 years in prison. Later, he pled guilty in federal court, depriving George Floyd of his civil rights. 3 former police officers also faced state and federal charges, were sentenced to prison for their role in Floyd's murder. Speaking Thursday at a press conference, Democratic Rep. Ilhan Omar, who represents Minnesota, called on her fellow lawmakers to think of the lives that could have been spared if we had the courage to act. We need a clear national standard to uphold the promise of equal protection under the law, she said. And that's another problem. These folks always trying to talk that equal stuff in your face while they know they're being unfair to you. They do this mess at the same time. You see how evil that is? You got a person in your face talking about all things are equal. And at the same time, that very same person know they're mistreating you behind the scenes. That's just straight up wicked for anybody that can do that. That's evil. So Floyd's murder sparked a wave of protest against racial injustice and police brutality around the world. 4 years later, Floyd's death still feels raw to his family, who were inclined to join the ranks of Black Americans spurred to action after their loved one was killed by the police. I promised myself watching the video of his death that I got to do something, and I have not stopped doing something. Floyd's uncle, Selwyn Jones, told CNN. The spring, Jones joined Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, an unarmed Black man who was also killed by police in 2014. Yeah, and I will never forget that one either. To talk about how they have turned their pain into purposeful activism at Harvard University. Jones said he co founded Hope 929.org, a charity dedicated to empowering people marginalized by society to bring about change in honor of his nephew. What I can do is I can take the atrocity that he was dealt that day and make a difference, he said. But I'm not optimistic about the fate of the legislation. I'm frustrated because I don't think it'll ever get passed. No, because you got to understand everything they do in Washington, D.C. is heavily rooted in racism. It really is. Everything. And if it does, it has to be so watered down. But we were promised that the bill would pass. Yeah, well, and y'all remember James Clyburn said it'll pass, but you might have to take out qualified immunity. Do y'all remember that? I sure do. Jones says he and his family will continue to uplift Floyd's legacy. He said he plans to attend a celebration in Floyd's honor this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be how it used to be, Jones said. Let's all sit around and eat, drink, and rejoice and care about one another. Yeah, I mean, I feel what his family is saying, but y'all, you got too many hateful ass people in political office in America. And it's to the point where when it comes down to us, nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets done when it comes down to us. And that is the truth. Cosmic Dream 1990, thank you so much for the super chat. Can you thank Tim Scott for that? Yeah, but he didn't do it by himself, y'all. Yeah, he did. But you got to also count those white senators, and we already know how they feel. Look, they won't even pass the Crown Act. They think the Crown Act is silly. Yeah, it's silly because, see, your dog hair is acceptable in this country, and our real hair is not. And that's the truth. So I wish his family the best, but don't hold your breath on them taking up this measure. They'll try to rumble this all up through, from now through the election. And trust me, you put Biden in there, this bill is never going to get passed. You put Trump in there, this bill is never going to get passed. Remember, they think we need more policing, if anything else. Lamont J. Williams, thank you for the super sticker. Oh yeah, well, you look at Tim Scott. I mean, this dude is the biggest loser. Yeah, he is a bootlick kisser. That's the only reason why he's in the Senate. Yeah, nobody's going to pass this bill. Nobody. You don't even hear Joe Biden talking about it. He doesn't talk about this bill at all. And he's been on the campaign trail since what, 2023? And he hasn't made mention of this bill even one time. Only thing Joe Biden will do, he'll acknowledge that we are oppressed, but he doesn't do anything beyond that. Just running his mouth about it. Anything else, this man don't do nothing. He doesn't care about our plight or what we're going through. Yeah, Tim Scott is a major sellout. I mean, you can't trust no man that stands around and says America is not a racist country. You can't trust nothing from him. Nothing. hmm And he's been in office long enough to make a difference, and he hasn't done a thing. I would never hold my breath waiting on Tim Scott for anything. hmm Yeah, it's exhausting. You know, I think his family will eventually get it. I think them coming forward and making this request, they're pretty naive to what this political system is all about. It's not going to get passed, y'all. It's not. It's not going to get passed. Now, if it was for any other group up in here, it would get passed. It would get passed with no problem. But for us, they have had an undying hatred for us in this country. So it will never pass for us. So it doesn't matter what side wins. This bill is not going to see the light of day. hmm Yeah. So, y'all, that's all I wanted to do was just get you up to date since this was coming up in the media again about this George Floyd and Policing Act. Look, since when last year, all that stuff going on in Florida, they have been canceling diversity programs all over the country. All right. That should be a clear indicator that they don't want to do nothing for us. That's all I can say. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this live stream. And I hope everybody enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll come back together again tomorrow on a whole different topic. Shalom, family.